The book, The Story of Jesus in History and Faith, was a reflection of some things that I've been working on for a number of years, and I've taught the Gospels and the life of Christ and the life of the story of Jesus for quite some time. And students who most of our students are going out into some form of Christian ministry, and a lot of the historical Jesus information simply didn't connect with them, and they didn't know how they could translate that into something that would be useful in the church. In the scholarly world, and in the church, you have two separate Jesuses, one for one communion and the other for the other community. And the scholarly Jesus is often the one that is, he lived and he died, and these were the things that were in his life, and often devoid of miracles or the supernatural, and you take away the various terms like Son of God and Lord and Christ. All of those kinds of things are generally missing in historical Jesus studies, except to talk about that as mythology. Well, that doesn't help students very much, and the story of Jesus, historical Jesus, ends at his death, not in a resurrection. But the church's story also goes beyond the tomb and that Jesus was placed in. It also speaks about that he is alive. He was resurrected. The church's answer historically has always been the argument for the existence of the church and the transformation of the apostles, the followers of Jesus, was that he was raised from the dead. So I've tried to bring together in one volume a connection between the historical Jesus and the Christ of the church's faith. We recognize that there are a number of issues that a person who simply says, I believe everything that I read, that they wouldn't fully understand, whether it's in the story of the birth of Jesus or the genealogies. How did genealogies function in the ancient world? There's a lot that we can learn from historians that I think is very useful information. Something about the teaching of Jesus and how he appealed to various texts, and which text did he appeal to in our Old Testament scriptures. What other texts might he have affirmed or been familiar with? That kind of thing is very useful. What kind of ministry did Jesus have, the kind of people that he approached? I try to bring out all of these things from not only the historical perspective, but also the gospel perspective. I would also say equally, even though a believer could be greatly benefited by all of the historical information, there's also limits to the historical inquiry. The historical inquiry, as I've just noted, says very little about anything that's supernatural or acclamations of Jesus as Lord or Son of God, and says nothing about Jesus as resurrected from the dead. Sometimes that's looked upon as simply mythological understandings. There are some parallels that we find in ancient history to phenomenal births as well as to ascensions. And what parallels might that have in the New Testament? How might that help us understand the significance of the ascension of Jesus? That's a very important story. And I think the ancient stories of the ascensions of the Caesars help us at least understand that it's talking about glorification and ascension. Those kinds of things are found throughout, and you need to overlap them, I think, for the church. I'm interested primarily in the church. I'm not writing for scholars. I'm talking to, in the book, to those who are preparing for Christian ministry and who will perhaps encounter a lot of critical thought, but they want to know also the faith perspective.